The race for the White House is heating up, and if you're watching the Battleground states, you know just how tight this election is becoming. With just weeks left before Election Day, key states like North Carolina, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Pennsylvania are shaping up to be the ultimate deciders in who will take the victory. And trust me, it's not just about the big cities anymore. Every rural county, every suburban district, and every swing voter is making this election a high-stakes game. Former President Trump and President Obama are hitting the campaign trail hard, but they're not just rallying in any cities. They're targeting the heart of Battleground America. Trump is focused on areas like North Carolina, a state he won in 2020, but where he's seeing some signs of shifting support. Meanwhile, Obama's back in Milwaukee, rallying Democrats to hold on to Wisconsin, a state that has seen some of the wildest shifts in recent years. But it's not just about who's showing up at the rallies. The polls are neck and neck, with numbers fluctuating in ways that make predicting the winner more challenging than ever. In Georgia, for example, we're seeing a surprising shift in the numbers. Could the Deep South be turning blue? Meanwhile, the fate of states like Pennsylvania could be the key to determining the entire election. So what's really going on behind the scenes in these states? And what does it all mean for the final outcome? Stick around, because in today's video, we'll break down the key battleground states you need to watch and how they're poised to flip the map this November. Let's kick things off with North Carolina, a state that's been a key battleground for both parties in recent years. In 2020, former President Trump won North Carolina by a narrow 1.3-point margin, but now, as we approach Election Day 2024, there are signs that the political landscape here could be shifting. Former President Trump has been doubling down in North Carolina, focusing his efforts on some of the more rural and suburban counties. He's not just making stops in major cities like Charlotte or Raleigh. He's hitting up places like Lenora County, where Trump won by 3.5 points in 2020. However, the trend from 2016 to 2020 shows a bit of a decline for Trump here. Back in 2016, he won Lenora County by over 6%. So what's happening? One reason for the shift is the growing discontent with the federal government's response to the devastating hurricanes and storms that hit the region in recent years. People in rural North Carolina are frustrated with what they see as slow federal recovery efforts, and Trump has been capitalizing on that frustration. His message: the federal government is failing, but he's the guy who understands their needs. Trump's campaign is also focusing on key suburban counties that have been slowly moving toward Democrats in the past few elections. Take Randolph County and Davidson County, for example. These areas are traditionally conservative, but there's been a noticeable change, with more suburban voters beginning to lean left. The Republican Party's strategy here is clear: turn out the base in these counties and rally the disaffected voters who feel overlooked by the current administration. The goal? To run up the margins in these suburban and rural regions to offset any losses in urban centers. But here's the thing: Democrats are not backing down. Former President Obama is also active in the state, working to recapture some of the ground Trump has gained in these key counties. It's a high-stakes battle for every vote, as the political tug-of-war between urban progressives and rural conservatives continues to play out. And make no mistake, North Carolina will be one of those states where the results could very well determine the outcome of the entire election. Now let's head up to the Midwest, where Wisconsin is shaping up to be one of the most crucial states in this election. If you know anything about the 2016 and 2020 elections, you'll know that Wisconsin was a blue wall state, solidly Democrat for decades. But in 2016, everything changed when Donald Trump flipped Wisconsin by a narrow margin. Since then, the state has been in a political tug-of-war, with both sides fiercely battling to reclaim the ground. Enter Milwaukee, Wisconsin's largest city and the heart of its liberal base. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won Milwaukee by a whopping 37 points, and Joe Biden expanded that margin in 2020 to around 40%. Democrats are hoping that by rallying in this urban hub, they can continue to dominate the region and hold on to Wisconsin. Barack Obama is back on the campaign trail, and his message is clear: keep Milwaukee blue. Obama's strategy: mobilize the African American vote, which has been a cornerstone of the Democratic coalition in Milwaukee. The former president knows that this is a key demographic, and his efforts to rally support here could make or break the Democratic chances in the state. The city's suburbs, like Waukesha County, are also important. While it's been a solid Republican stronghold, Trump needs to maintain a strong margin here to offset the blue wave coming from Milwaukee. But the challenge is clear: urban versus rural. While Milwaukee Milwaukee is solidly blue, much of Wisconsin's rural areas are trending red. In places like Waukesha County and Ozaukee County, Trump has made significant inroads, and the GOP is working hard to expand those margins. The key for Trump in Wisconsin will be turning out the rural vote and making sure he keeps his base motivated in these areas. Rural voters are looking for a candidate who understands their concerns, particularly when it comes to jobs, healthcare, and taxes. The big question remains, can the Democrats hold on to their gains in Milwaukee and the surrounding areas, or will rural Wisconsin swing the state back to Trump? The answer could decide the fate of not just Wisconsin, but the entire election. As we move into the final stretch of this election cycle, all eyes are on two states that have historically been bellwethers, Georgia and Pennsylvania. These two states have become absolute must-wins for both campaigns, and the shifting polls in each are creating major uncertainty about the final outcome. Georgia, a state that, until recently, had been considered a Republican stronghold. However, 2020 marked a major turning point when Joe Biden flipped Georgia by a slim 0.2%. This was the first time Georgia voted Democrat in a presidential race since 1992. The shift was attributed to a surge in voter turnout, particularly among Black voters, young voters, and suburban women. Since then, Georgia has been under intense scrutiny. Trump, who won the state comfortably in 2016, is making a major push to retake it in 2024. And the polls, it's a toss-up. Some polling shows Trump gaining ground, especially in the northern suburbs, where he's still popular among conservative voters. But down in the southern part of the state, particularly in Atlanta and its suburbs, Kamala Harris and the Democrats are seeing strong momentum. Could we see another shock result like 2020, or will Georgia's history as a Republican state reassert itself? Meanwhile, Pennsylvania, known as the Keystone State, remains the holy grail of battleground states. The state has been incredibly volatile in recent elections, with Trump narrowly flipping it in 2016, only for Biden to win it back by just 1.2% in 2020. It's clear that whoever wins Pennsylvania will have a massive advantage in the overall race. And here's where things get interesting. Pennsylvania is a state of contrasts. While urban areas like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh lean heavily Democratic, many of the smaller towns and rural areas are solid Trump territory. The key to victory in Pennsylvania will be who can drive voter turnout in these smaller, more conservative areas while maintaining their strength in the big cities. Polls are showing a tight race in Pennsylvania, with some surveys even indicating a dead heat between Trump and Harris. It's a state where every vote counts, and both sides know that Pennsylvania could very well be the deciding factor. If Trump can hold onto his rural support and make gains in suburban districts, he could flip the state back in his favor. On the other hand, if Harris can rally urban voters and maintain the Democratic base, Pennsylvania will likely stay blue. So whether it's Georgia's unpredictable swing or Pennsylvania's split personality, these two states are absolutely crucial to the 2024 election, and the outcome here could very well tip the scale. And there you have it. As we look ahead to Election Day 2024, it's clear that these battleground states, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, are where the real battle will be fought. Whether it's Trump's strategy to solidify rural support or Obama's push to mobilize urban voters, every vote in these key states could be the difference between victory and defeat. North Carolina, with its shifting dynamics, could be a game changer. Trump's focus on the rural heartlands and suburban counties shows just how tight things are getting. Will his efforts be enough to keep the state red, or will Democrats flip it once again? In Wisconsin, the tension between urban liberals and rural conservatives is palpable. Obama's rallies in Milwaukee and Trump's efforts to rally the rural vote mean the state is going to be a nail-biter. Every single vote could determine whether the blue wall holds or crumbles. And let's not forget Georgia and Pennsylvania, two states that are too close to call. Georgia has become a true swing state, while Pennsylvania's electoral split has both sides on edge. Whoever wins these states could very well win the entire election. As the race continues to heat up, it's safe to say that the outcome is anything but certain. The road to 270 electoral votes runs straight through these battlegrounds, and with polling numbers shifting every day, it's all up for grabs. So what do you think? Will we see the same blue-red map in 2024, or will there be surprises along the way? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you want to stay updated on everything leading up to the election.